Hi guys, welcome back to the Once You're In podcast. This is, I believe, episode number 72, and we have a special guest with us today. So this is the Natural Mr Olympia himself. Although I'm going to have to say Natural Amateur Mr Olympia. Sorry, mate. As Reece put on his story, it's the Natural Big Rammy. It's Mr Adam Powe. So yeah, we've got Adam on. Obviously, Reece is here as usual. I'm here as usual. Adam, for people who don't know you, obviously I've just explained that, but please give us a bit of an insight, mate, into who you are.
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Yeah, so my Instagram's adam.powe_. So obviously you can find me on there. And also on YouTube, Adam Powe on there. So I've been bodybuilding for God knows how many years it is now, maybe like 5 years competing, and just love bodybuilding, just love training, and I'm also a coach, and yeah, so
So
I love the plug. First line.
Yeah, first thing, my Instagram's this.
I
my Instagram is this.
I thought you said tell me where you can find me, but maybe I misheard.
No. Mate, we just promote yourself. That's all you're here for. Just promote yourself. That's all it is.
Follow me first. Bye.
I first encountered Adam when it was 2019 you competed, didn't you? That was when you won.
Yeah, the juniors 2019.
Yeah.
So, I remember.
Yeah, because like I obviously knew like Jack Richardson was competing. There was a few other lads in the juniors that I knew, and you, like, I didn't have a clue who you were. And then you obviously came and won, but you didn't even win. You didn't even win your qualifier, did you? You came second in your qualifier.
Yeah, no, it was weird. I came second in my qualifier, and then because my qualifier was in June, I had a long while until the finals. So I was like kind of like 90% there in condition, not really. I was kind of out of shape, so that's why I came second. And then because of the amount of time I had, it allowed me to make sure I could focus on bringing the condition for that show, which I did pretty well. And yeah, it worked in my favor. I would never suggest to other people to compete in June if they want to win the British finals. But
was it near where you lived though? Was your qualifier just like closer to home or what?
No, it wasn't even near where I lived. I think maybe at the time we just didn't really think about the finals that much. Just didn't think it through.
Was that the first time you ever competed then?
No. So the first time I competed was, I was 19, and it was like after college. I had a gap year, and I was like, oh, I want to compete this year before I go to uni. So I did men's physique. I did this federation called NAC. I don't know if anyone would know it, and I won the men's physique class. It wasn't tested, but it wasn't a big show. And then just got the massive itch for competing, and then came back a year later and did BNBF and UKDFBA, and I did physique. I won the first timers class, and then I won the juniors BNBF qualifier, but there was only like 3 of us on stage, and then I wrapped it up there. It wasn't optimal because I literally came from traveling around Southeast Asia into prep, and just went straight into prep. It was a weird one. But yeah, I was young and I just was enjoying competing, which is not what I would suggest to young competitors. I'd say take time away. Like those shows did nothing towards anything, you know.
No, but it kind of got, I guess it got you into it, didn't it? And you sort of
yeah, absolutely.
Like you say, you got the itch for it then.
You get the itch for it, and I think competing like frequently does kind of push you quite hard in your growing phase, because you're like, yeah, I've got to go again next year. And
yeah,
I think the reason I did it, I kept doing it every year, is because I'd bulk and I see all these improvements, and then 6 months later I'd be like, oh, I want to get shredded again.
No, I think that is one benefit to competing regularly, is that the time frame that you have in between, like you say, you feel like, right, I need to fucking get on with it now, like get my foot on the gas, because I've only got 10 months, 8 months before I'm dieting again, or whatever it may be. Reece, do you have any questions for Adam, first of all, before I ask him what I want to ask him?
To be fair, it was more so because I'm coming into this, like, Adam, I've seen you before on Instagram, but I'm coming into this relatively, like, I feel like I'm probably one of the listeners. Like, I'm probably just going to zone out and just listen to you talk, which is quite a nice guest. I feel like that's probably going to be quite a good episode. In relation to more so like your background, obviously, I know you spoke about you competing and where you started. I'd more so be saying, like, coming from people that might not know you, is there anything that, like, for example, you mentioned you competed. I'm also looking at things from like the starting point. So you did men's physique. Did you always do men's physique? Was it just a case of stepping on stage, you don't have enough muscle? If you can go into the details of those early sort of years, because like I said, I only saw you probably maybe 2 or so years ago. And then obviously I've seen you this year, but that's it. So I've not really seen the start, and I've not really seen the middle. And I'm guessing, like most people probably listening, other than maybe like your close friends and people that follow you directly, probably would be in a similar position to say,
they don't
who
know
the fuck's the natural big Ramy? Like the natural big Ramy? Who the fuck's this dude?
That's what the title of this podcast.
I'll say that. I'm not quite the same size, but
but were you always wanting to, let's say, compete and actually be a proper bodybuilder and show your legs, or was it just going to be where you just wanted to be a men's physique dude? What was it?
Oh, it was very different back then. So like when I first started training, I first started training for rugby. So I was training legs, but I probably wasn't training hard enough when I was training legs, and I just was squatting all the time. And like my legs weren't a weak point, but they weren't like that good. And I was just on Instagram and like watching people like Jeff Side and people like that, you know, like all the men's physique competitors. And I just loved training. And then I was like, well, I love training and I feel like I'm growing pretty well. And I feel like for my age, I'm in a good shape. So I should make the most of this and compete. And I'm naturally quite a competitive guy. Like I used to love playing rugby. So I just got really excited to see what I could do on stage. And I hadn't really even considered in bodybuilding then. I just wanted to do men's physique because of the people I was like watching on social media. And so I did my men's physique show. My coach at the time also was like, yeah, your legs aren't good enough yet for bodybuilding. And that's why I did physique for the first 2 years and then did bodybuilding afterwards. But I think I just sort of transitioned. I don't know if like, I always found like when I first started training, you always have someone you look up to. And I bet like everyone could agree, like the first person they looked at when they first started training was probably like not even as big as they are now. And they were like, oh, I'll get this big. And it's like, I look up to like people like Jeff Side, and then you get bigger and then you start looking at other bodybuilders and you get into bodybuilding. I think it's just like that slow transition. Obviously I was also pretty young at the time. So I guess, but now it's just, it's all about bodybuilding in my head. Yeah.
You know, you said you
makes sense.
You played rugby. Sorry, mate. Yeah, I was going to say, you know, you say you played rugby when you were like growing up. Did you play that like at a decent level? Did you play that from when you were like really young?
Yeah, so I did. I was playing for county, and then I played for Cambridge Rugby Club, which was like national champions once. So funny enough, I was like, when I was 13 years old, I was probably the same height as I am now. And I was, so I was like 5'8.5" when I was like 13. And I was very fast and quick, and like I hit puberty early, and I was just running through everyone on the rugby pitch. And that was like what I was good at, playing rugby. At the start, I wasn't that skillful. I was just strong and like physical. And then over time, obviously my skills and stuff improved. But when I was like 15, 16, like I was no longer the tallest guy anymore. People were growing. And then I was naturally quite strong, fast, powerful. So I was just getting into training in the gym. And that's what I just, I was always the more physical person when I was playing rugby, and I loved it. But then I guess bodybuilding got to a point where it's like, I can't risk getting injured now. So I miss it, but I can't do it because if I tear my ACL, I'm fucked. Yeah.
That's like literally the exact opposite to me. Like I was like 5 foot until I was like 15. and then I shot up to like what I am now in like the space of a year. But that doesn't surprise me. Like I quite like asking people who are good bodybuilders. We'll often ask, won't we, like, you know, what did you used to do before bodybuilding? And more often than not, it's like, oh yeah, I played rugby, or I did athletics, and I was like, I was rapid. It's like,
well, I was speaking to.
Oh, sorry, talking over.
That's right. You go.
No, I was going to say the amount of people we spoke to, I can't remember, Finn, one individual that says, oh yeah, I didn't really do anything.
No, but that makes sense, doesn't it? Because genetically, like we've always said, like if you're good at bodybuilding, you probably were good at sport or some form of sport. Like it's very rare that you get a good bodybuilder who didn't do any kind of sport when they grew up.
Yeah.
It's like in your makeup, isn't it? It's your, like, obviously genetics play a huge role. They're not everything, but like it does play a massive role. Like if you're an early developer, you hit puberty when you were like, what, 10? Like, you know, you're strong, you're fast. Like it's not a surprise that you've got like really, really good potential for bodybuilding. So the main thing I wanted to ask, mate, was literally just, give us like a run through. Feel free to take us on like a story, mate. Just tell us about this entire season, because it's cool. Like, you know, obviously you've gone and basically done exactly what you wanted to do. And obviously you had a bit of a setback at the British. Like, obviously you won the British title, but you didn't win the overall. But then you went and obviously beat. I'm not going to go into it all. So you go. You tell us what happened this year. And feel free to give as much detail as you want, mate.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'll just start by just quickly, briefly explaining as well what happened last year, because it kind of relates to like what we wanted to do for this year. So like last year, obviously I came 5th in the junior class, and I was with my old coach, and I was just, you know, way off, not lean enough, pushed too far in the off season, didn't do a pre-prep diet. Also, some of the peaking strategies I didn't really agree with, you know, cutting water too heavily, stuff like that. So I was just way off, and it was very hard because like also at the time, my previous coach was saying like, oh, this was you at your best, which was not true. That's kind of disheartening to hear.
Like,
what was that?
Were you like a week out or a few days out and you were like, I look fucking shit? Like,
it's hard because you don't want to tell yourself that when you put so much work in. I was looking back at like previous shots of me like 2 weeks out from the British in 2019 versus 2 weeks out this time, and it was playing in my mind, and I knew it deep down, but I didn't want to tell myself it, because if you tell yourself it, you're not going to step on stage. You'll probably just give up, because like the last thing you want is to be not at your best. That's like bodybuilding to me is all about being, you know, improved. And but it was a bit disheartening at the time. I literally came out of that show thinking like, what is the point? Because I was being told like this was you at your best, and I reflected. I spoke to AJ. I was like, well, and then I looked at myself. I was like, no chance. This was me at my best. Absolute bullshit. Spoke to AJ. I immediately needed to change something, just to, you know, give me like motivation to get back in the gym. And he was like, yeah, let's compete next year. And yeah, we started. It was hard at the time because obviously you've done a long prep and then you want to take time and grow. And then AJ was like, oh, you should compete next year. But after a while with AJ, I soon realized how much better that prep was going to be. Seeing how much leaner I was going to start at and how steady we were controlling things. You know, like just loads of things were different. Like reversing post show with my old coach was like really slow on really low food, and then with AJ, he gave me loads of food out the gates, and I saw how good that was and beneficial. And it's like all these things made me realize that this prep was just going to be so much more successful. And once I got my missus on board, because that's the hard part, it's like I met Ruby like during lockdown. She met me when I was like peak off season, and then I went into prep, and then prep was a long prep, and then 6 months later I was going back into prep. So a lot of our relationship has been me and prep. So she's been amazing to support me through it. But I basically agreed like I'll compete and then I'll take 2 years off. So
it's difficult as well because you obviously like with a little boy as well. It's not like you just we met and like you got a kid. It's like it's very cute, by the way. That video of your kid making that weird noise, you put it on your story ages ago. I showed my missus it, and we were like laughing at it for ages. I always see him at the shows as well, and like because I don't really know your family, so I can't go over and be like, so I'm just looking at him like he's dead cute, that kid.
Yeah,
a bit concerned if you did. You never even seen the baby in your life, and you're saying that like, oh, I see you on an Instagram story.
I know, how weird.
Strange.
But no, he's proper cute. Like, they were all buzzing for you at the British. Like, obviously, all your family was there, weren't they? That was good.
Cheers, man. Yeah.
But now, carry on. Get into what changed then. Like, obviously, like you say, it was a lot different.
Leveled up. Went to AJ. Leveled up
with Senor Morris.
Yeah. So he calls himself was it Morris the Magician? He said that to me once.
Oh, did he? It's all right if someone else says it. You don't tell. You don't call it yourself.
Come on.
I probably kill me for that.
Senor Morris. Senor Morris.
Yeah, Senor Morris. The Godfather. We call him the Godfather in natural bodybuilding, don't we?
The Godfather. He is a magician, though. I mean, it was magic what he did. To be fair.
He turned you from like pretty average junior to Mr.
No, he turned you from a very good junior to then basically being a bit shit, and then
I think
amazing.
it shows. It really shows how modest he is, because he could plug that like crazy.
Oh, mate,
he could literally put a photo of me last year and this year and just be like, look.
But the thing is, I think the level AJ's at now, like the clientele he's going to get, they already know that. You know what I mean? So he doesn't need to post it. Like, whereas if it was a coach who maybe didn't have the same kind of name, they would be like, they'd be plastering it everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he doesn't need to, does he?
Yeah. But I mean, so the biggest difference, like the most important difference, was starting prep in a good position. Like I started prep in 2021 at 95 kilos, and I started prep this time at 89 kilos. So that's already 6 kilos difference, and that's so favorable because you don't need to push super hard. So, and even now, like reflecting, whilst it was a very good prep, I actually would like to start prep maybe even after 2 years out, like at the same body weight, or just maybe a little bit less.
I thought when you put that comparison, like start to end recently, I thought you were leaner than that when you started. Like, and I was like, oh, like you weren't like.
It's a weird thing. It shows like the mind games of it, because once you get to contest lean, you then see your physique differently. And now I look back at it and I was like, oh, there's quite a lot to come off there. I think it helps you as a coach getting contest lean, because you can then see it on people and be like, yeah, you need to, like, you can see how much they really need to lose.
And just practicing dieting with people as well, like knowing how hard you can push them and how fast they lose it and that. Yeah.
So started prep 6 kilos lighter, started prep a little bit earlier as well, which helps a lot. And we just, from there onwards, we're just losing at a very, very steady pace. So that helped massively with holding performance in the gym, being able to lose at a steady pace because I started in a good position. But also something that I have to give credit to AJ, drastically changed everything, was how he taught me to train within those 6 months I was pushing up with him, and then how I sort of used that and then kept improving it throughout prep and learning to just use some muscle as opposed to relying on momentum on anything, and just becoming so efficient at utilizing the muscle allowed me to retain muscle so much better than I have done in the past. I think that's like the most important thing that someone needs to make sure they get nailed when they move into prep, is your training needs to be spot on, because it makes such a difference. Yeah,
we spoke about that before. I remember we were at a show and you said to me, you were like, my training's shit. You were like, I just rely on my genetics. And I was like, yeah. He was like, and then
I remember seeing, like, this is probably 3 years ago. I think it's like you were like the original buddy bent over rower.
Yeah, your rows are massively buddy.
I think it was like I think it was like one of the during the first lockdown. Finn showed me.
Yeah. In my
like 3.5 or 4 plates.
Yeah, you rode 4 plates easy before. I'm sure.
Yeah, I did like 190 for like 8.
Like,
yeah.
I remember in 2019 or 20 thinking that is fucking awful. And nowadays, like it wouldn't even be acceptable. Literally, you post Instagram and you'd have 4 likes and your account would be reported for
be cancelled, mate.
But, it'd be Adam Powe cancelled. All clients have left him after a disgraceful bent over row form. But I think in a sense, like, it's in a weird way. I bet you've said like your training's leveled up, but having those foundations, because you've always trained hard. Like even when you trained horrendously, you always trained hard. It was where your intensity was good, but your accuracy was not really. But there was no.
And I think like training like that, whilst I still wouldn't say it has a place in the off season, you can kind of get away with it in the off season, because if your body weight's going up, it's only going to get better. Like, if your body weight's going up, it's only going to, if you're relying on body weight to sling weight around and then you get heavier and heavier and heavier, funny enough, you're going to lift more. Whereas if you do that on the diet phase, the minute you get lighter, you're absolutely screwed. Like, you can't get away with that.
I did a YouTube video like when I was dieting, doing my pre-prep diet, and it was literally saying that one of the like points to make sure that your training doesn't drop off massively is like, if you're just chucking weight about because you're fat, as soon as you're not fat, you're not anywhere near that weight, and it's like then you think, oh my god, my training's regressing like drastically. It's like it's probably not. Your training was a bit sloppy before. As long as you're aware of it, I don't mind it to an extent. Like we'll do like rows in our third set is a little bit sloppy, or like we'll do a certain movement and we're like, well, you know, the last few reps we'll take partials and it's a bit sloppy. But when it comes to a prep, and obviously your recovery is a lot, you know, your ability to recover is a lot lower. You don't want to be doing that anyway. But yeah, so from there, obviously, your training is drastically better now. So that was the 6 month sort of push up that you had. And when did you actually start prep?
25th of March, I started prep. Yeah. So,
and then your first show was
the first show was
Heart of England,
September the 18th. Heart of England. Yeah. Which I think is 25 weeks.
24, 25, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was, because I think AJ was always like 25 weeks is what your prep's going to be for the first show.
Yeah, what was the stage weight from the qualifier to the show that you did the previous year, where you weren't 100%?
Oh, so I was 74 kilos at the qualifier, and then I was 75 and a bit last year. So I was substantially leaner, but lighter, obviously, because I was so much leaner. Yeah. So I think I was a bit spilled at the last year, though. I think we carved up a bit too hard, because I was flattest. I was like 74, but well, I don't know. It was hard because I looked like I spilled, but I was also flat because we weren't putting water in. You need water to carry.
You just look stressed.
Yeah.
Like you still looked good because you've got that much muscle. Like you looked good, but not for you. You know what I mean? Like you still, if someone didn't know you, they'd be like, that guy's pretty good. Like he's quite big. He's got a good amount of shape. Like he's got good shape. You had the most muscle like on stage apart from maybe, was it Ramon?
Yeah, maybe Ramon and the German guy.
The German guy was a joke. So even if you'd have been your best, you'd have been third, maybe second. So I think Ramon was great, but I think you at your best would have pushed him. But I think the German guy was.
Yeah, German guy's very good. Yeah.
But yeah, you came fifth, didn't you? So you definitely were a couple of places down from where you should have been.
That's what hurt me the most, was the fact that if I took third, then I lost to Ramon and the German guy. All right, because I've won the British before, and it's like I'm the best in Britain. Although I'm glad it didn't happen, because if I came third, chances are I probably would have stayed with my coach and just carried on doing training like an idiot, doing buddy rows and
Mate, dangerous, mate. Nothing wrong about buddy rows. There is, mate. We've stopped doing them now. They're dangerous. Stay away, mate. Stay away. Right. So that's kind of the 2021 to 2022 season. So 2022 first show was the Heart of England. So take us through that one, mate.
So it was just a very, very steady prep of just losing like really nice steady rate into the show, and just allowed me to retain muscle perfectly. I think we agreed after that show, we're like, yeah, you can be tired. Now is the time to push hard, which we did. And maybe it would have been a little bit better if we were just a slight bit more assertive at the start. Could have maybe helped a little bit, but because it was so steady, I just held muscle perfectly. Was it the condition required, in my opinion, for a qualifier? So it worked really nicely. But yeah, just through that whole prep, it was just very similar throughout, not too many refeeds. I went, interestingly enough, I think at 12 weeks out, I went on holiday with my mates to somewhere in Italy in a villa, and I just prepped in this villa and just did it because we scheduled it to be a devolume. So I just trained in like a commercial gym, did a devolume, and we actually ran like a diet break across that week because we upped the food, and my body weight was just kind of holding or just going up very, very steadily. So we were basically dieting on more food for a bit, but it ended up being like 5-6 days of a diet break, which worked really well for holding muscle. And then we just carried on. So other than that, I don't think I had any other high days. Like it was just really, really steady. So I didn't really need to do high days.
Your food didn't get like overly low anyway, did it?
Oh no. So my food for that show did not get low at all. Like I guess 250 carbs was training day, the lowest, and then maybe like 150, 160 on rest days. Yeah.
The thing is, though, like
you weren't in the trenches. Like you weren't in the trenches, bro.
Yeah.
Like for us, we're all like, oh, that's decent. But for so many people, they'll be like, oh, my food was so low. It really wasn't. It really wasn't.
But yeah, this is the thing. Like this with my old coach. Like this is why I've really enjoyed the whole process of AJ. It's because I've had the whole other extreme, like very old school bro sciencey, like Ronnie. So I was on like 300 protein, 0 carbs, like barely any fats, like 1 week out dying. So this was a dream.
So the Heart of England was when you were against Matt, wasn't it? You and Matt was the top two.
Yeah. And that show actually helped me so much doing that. Like this is why I always think doing a lot of shows helps, because you can reflect on how you look on stage and how you compare next to people and tweak things in terms of posing. Because there was some poses that I literally, like my front lat spread, I hit next to Matt and they moved Matt into the center because I was just hitting it so wrong. I couldn't get my lats out. I basically, what would happen is, I think because of my long torso, if I had my wrists facing up, my lats just don't come out and sit. So I was like looking at my front lat spread for ages, trying to figure out. I got work on my scap because nothing was opening enough. I remember on the day of the show, my right scap felt tight. And then I just started doing it with my fists down, like holding my trunks. And my front lat spread, like if you looked at the finals versus the qualifier, you'd be like, what the hell? Like it was so much better. And I was able to do that because Matt pushed me, like credit to Matt, like he was very good.
I think Matt's really good. He's got really, really good shape.
Yeah, I thought his showing at the qualifier was very, very good.
He presents himself well, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what like made me think about things, because he was doing like a twist, and it helps me figure out like how I should pose next to him at the finals. I do like to say to people, like, don't look at people too much, just focus on yourself. But sometimes it can be useful knowing who you're up against and how to pose next to them. Because the way you should pose changes drastically based on who you're next to, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you won. You're obviously you're middleweight, aren't you? Or middle height, medium height. Yeah. So you won that, and then you won the overall there.
I didn't. Sid won the overall.
Oh yeah.
It was I think the overall, the qualifier, they kind of, I don't know. I think Sid was so dominant in novice. He came out. He was in the center when he came out. I was on the end, and they didn't move anyone. And I think they were like, yeah, let's just do the overall now. And they judged it maybe a little bit quicker than the finals, which is understandable because they've got a lot to get through on the qualifier. And it's not like the overall result of the qualifier is a lot less serious, and obviously figuring out who's the overall.
And you got robbed. You got robbed with the overall.
And the qualifier.
Lee's not listening to this, mate.
Yeah, don't worry, mate. Just say you got robbed. It's fine.
Horrendous judging.
Yeah, no. To be fair, I think the thing was as well that I was still not like, I wasn't at crazy conditioning. So I think my physique does get a lot better with conditioning in terms of my lines and stuff. So yeah.
So then, how many weeks was it between then and the finals? Like 3? 4?
4. Yeah, 4 weeks. Yeah.
So at the finals, it was me that helped you win the British title, wasn't it? With the backstage with the chest flies, mate. You stained. I had like a white like shirt jacket thing, and it was stained on it. So yeah, just talk us through the finals day, because obviously that was quite a big day for you, and then that kind of obviously got you set up to what you then went on to.
Yeah, so I mean, I was very excited for that day just because of how improved I was for that show. I knew we were going to sort of stand out. It was really exciting to sort of bring such an improved look. And I mean, on the day, like, there's always the whole talk of like, oh, there's lots of Europeans. The class did have loads of Europeans in, and it's very easy. You start, like, you get out the list of names, you know, on the leaflet, and you can look them up on Instagram, and people were doing this. I think Finn and Jack were doing that, and I was like,
everyone was doing it.
Yeah. And I was just like, you know what, it doesn't matter. Like, I spoke to AJ about it. He said, like, someone went up to him in 2021 and was like, have you seen all the Europeans? He was like, it doesn't matter, I'm going to beat them all. And he's like, you need to have that confidence when you compete. And I did have that confidence for that show. I was just like, when I was pumping up, I just was like, almost how I felt like when I used to play rugby, like coming out to play, like, you know, you all that adrenaline, you're like, let's fucking go. So that's how I felt when I stepped on stage then. And yeah, it was so fun. Yeah, it was a very fun day.
That was good. It was the middleweight was, or the medium height, I should say, was a very, very good class as well, wasn't it? It was like, how many was there in it? It was quite a lot.
Like, yeah, was it? I think it was like 16 or. Yeah.
It was 18. Busy. It was like the class of the day. It was a busy one.
Yeah. And a lot of like Europeans that you see, and you're like, that was the guy that came second was 9 kilos heavier than me. And
what was his name again? Got him on Instagram. Yeah, Peter Stark. Yeah,
Peter Stark. Yeah.
Massive,
big guy.
Yeah, very big.
There was a moment I was watching him pose, and I was like, maybe I don't have this. Like, I really didn't expect to. It was a close one. Yeah,
he is a big guy. So then you obviously went into the overall, and you were more worried about like the short class winner, weren't you? There was a couple like, to be fair, the standard was like meant, obviously it's British finals, so like anybody who wins a class is very, very good. So Lloyd won the short class, didn't he? And he was
very good. Big.
The guy that won the novice, can't remember his name. Leon.
Yeah, that's it. Campbell's
very good.
Yeah.
And then obviously you had the heavyweight, which was Christoph, who obviously you've you now, like, I guess you're pretty decent mates with him. You trained with him and stuff, didn't you?
Yeah.
He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy. He's like, obviously I was looking at him a lot on Instagram before I met him, and like, you always have that one guy, you're like, shit, am I going to beat them? And and then it was nice to actually meet him and realize how nice he was, because I was saying to him, like, when you compete against someone that you like, it's a bit easier, because it's like, well, if I lose, like, at least I'm happy for you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I was happy for him winning, and I think it was very close, but I looked at the video after, and I actually agree. Like, I was doing things, again, it's come back to the point about posing. Like, when I was hitting my side tricep, I was angling my foot like slightly to the audience and sitting too much on my glutes, and my leg just looked, it killed the angle of the leg, and it just looked so much smaller than his, and his side leg is massive. And it was that pose that just destroyed me next to him, I think. Yeah. I tweaked that for the...
Yeah, you tweaked it for the Olympia, but these are the things, like, this for me is what bodybuilding's about. Like, you're not going, oh, I won you won the British title that day. You didn't win the overall, but you won the British title, and you're still looking at it and going, that wasn't good. That wasn't good enough. That could be better.
Yeah.
That's how you need to be. Whereas, like, I feel like in this sport nowadays, it's because it's such a fashionable, if you like, a fashionable thing where it's like, oh, I competed. All people care about is the post-show food.
Yeah.
What are they eating afterwards, and then putting a photo on Instagram, like, of them competing. Like, whereas with you, it was like, right, what needs to be better? And that's why you'll keep getting better. That's how you need to be. So you obviously you won the British title, but you lost the overall at the show to Christoph. And then how many weeks was it until going to the Olympia?
Well, we had the Europeans before that.
You had the one in Budapest.
Yeah, which went terribly.
Yeah, you didn't get looked at, did you? You said you came out on the end. And
yeah, I mean, a few other people had this. Like, the judging was very different to the Olympia. Emma won the figure class, and then she didn't place at the Olympia. Grace came fifth at Budapest and came like third at the Olympia. Paula Cox, the overall figure class winner, the British, didn't place at Budapest, and then won like everything at the Natural Olympia. The trouble is the show was a bit rushed, I think. So, and I understand, like, sometimes it can be hard to be seen when they're going through it quickly. The guy that won, Alex Lukac, is just ginormous, like, absolutely huge, but way bigger in person. Like, really? If you think he's good on Instagram, he's like twice the size in person. Like, I was a bit gutted I wasn't able to stand next to him and Maxo and just like see how I look like in some poses, because I think my back double bicep would have pushed his. I'm not saying I would have beat him, but like, it would have been interesting to see. But yeah, that show was just very rushed, unfortunately.
I think even that, like, most people, if they don't place, they just throw their toys out the pram. Oh, fuck it, I'm not doing the Olympia. Like, yeah. But I think you put a story on, like, not long after it, and you were like, yeah, that was annoying. Like, I didn't really get looked at, it's a shame, but on to the next one. Like, you didn't really let it. Obviously, it's upsetting and frustrating, but you didn't like kick off about it.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, I would never like be that person that kicks off about judging, or like, you know, people put on Instagram, like, they'll be like, this guy came second to my left here, the guy came first. It's like it's clear that you're trying to get everyone to be like, oh yeah, you looked better than that. I don't really agree with that. Like, at the end of the day, the judges are just judging what they see on the stage, and like, maybe sometimes it's subjective and it can be rushed and some things can go wrong, but it's not worth like questioning their decisions. And what happened is I came off that stage, I was like, okay, well, initially I was obviously a bit like, well, what's the point going to Olympia? I just didn't place at the Europeans. And then I looked at the photos and I saw that I was comparing next to people, and I was like, right, no, I'm going to the Olympia. This was just a rush decision. Maybe it just didn't go my way on the day. If I was literally like sixth and deservedly sixth and way worse than the top five, I probably would have been like Maybe not, but I knew that like if things go because bodybuilding can go so differently on a certain day, and it can go your way and it can't. Like you come out on the end and that maybe they just don't see
that's
you.
the thing, isn't it? Like you say, you come out on the end, the lighting's not the best there. Like you're behind the fucking table or the curtain. It's like you've done all that work to then just for that to happen. Like it was annoying.
It was very annoying because also like it was so rushed that we were pumping up and they're like, oh, you're on stage now, and then all the people were like, what? And loads of the competitors were going, some weren't, some were going, and they tried to put us in the line, and then everyone ended up just walking out on their own. And I tried to get myself in the right spot, and because I didn't rush out there, I was on the end. If I literally was just like, right, I'm getting the center, it could have been different.
But you learn from that. So like next time, if that was to happen, you'd be like, right, I'm not going to fucking be on the end again. You learn from it all, like, don't you? So
yeah.
That kind of brings us to the Olympia then. So you obviously didn't get the placing that you wanted at the Europeans at Budapest. How long was it from then until going to the Natural Olympia?
So it was 2 weeks, and immediately after Budapest, AJ was like, right, we're going to reverse, because we realized that I was, definitely too flat in my opinion. So we literally from the day after when I got home, we checked in every single day leading into the Olympia, and we were just reversing from there. We started off just on like relatively, medium food, maybe like 300 carbs, and just took it day by day. And it helped massively because it was 2 weeks, it gave me a good amount of time where I was actually in the gym, like training hard, doing new numbers. Like it helped massively with my legs, I think. Just gave so much life to my lower half, and everything was a lot fuller. And by the time I was competing, I was 69.9 at the lowest before climbing up into Budapest, and then I was 72.5 on the day of the Olympia. So, like a few kilos heavier. Yeah.
So when did you fly out? Did you fly out like a few days before?
Yeah, a couple of days before. Yeah, I think we flew out on Wednesday, and the show was Saturday.
And AJ was there, wasn't he? So he could like see you the day before.
Yeah, he was there. So
how was it? Sorry, mate.
I was checking in with him. I was just sending him hotel shots, but he was looking at me like he looked at me at the gym, and yeah.
I was gonna say, how was it with traveling? Like, how did you manage that?
It was very hard because of the time difference and how long the flight was. I was trying to get my eating on American time schedule, but that means I'm extending my day because we're ahead. So it meant I was having to space out my meals by like 4 hours. But even sometimes I think I did it as long as 5 hours. I had my first meal at like midday UK time, but I was just up for so long. I was starving.
Yeah.
That
was mental as well. Like, people will listen to that and go, what, 4 hours? That's fine. Like, but when you're like deep into prep, if you're not eating every like 2 and a bit hours, you're like, oh no.
I remember I've said this in the podcast before. I was going to physio, and I'd done like, I think it was about an hour's worth of cardio. I did like 12,000 steps, and I had my egg white meal in the morning. And I took my only carb meal on a rest day, and it was like honestly 40 grams of creamed rice. Like it was no carbs, and it spilled on the floor on the way to physio. And I had to, I about cried. I pretty much did cry. Like I didn't physically cry, but I pretty much did. And I literally remember like just like beating the steering wheel. I was like, what am I doing? And it was about 8 hours. I went 8 hours without eating a meal because I was going to physio. I was going to be late, and I couldn't go back and make another cream fried meal. And it literally, I worked out, it was like an hour's cardio, 12,000 steps, 8 hours on, I think it was like 30 protein and like 0.3 carb and like 1 fat. And it was the worst day of my entire prep. It was horrendous. I got in, and obviously I thought to myself, I now can technically eat 2 meals in one. But I was just like, I felt so bad. It was the worst day of my life. I remember it so well.
I think we've all had like a tantrum in the car on prep at some point. Yeah, I've done that before.
I used to do it like after every session when, like right towards the end when my training was just a bit shit. Like maybe not right towards the end because obviously you're eating a bit more, but maybe like 4 to 6 weeks out, when you just everything just feels really heavy. You just feel weak as shit. Like I'd be moaning to Reece like when we were walking back to the and then I'd send AJ a voice note and I'd be like, "Yeah, mate, it's just another tough one today." Like like trying not to fucking moan. And he'd just always say the same thing, like, yeah, it is what it is, mate. Like, it's part of it. It's how it's going to be at times. Like, my volume was like rock bottom as well. I was just doing like one set on everything at that point.
Yeah.
But it's just frustrating towards the end, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I remember because I trained with Charlie, and like he'd be like screaming like yes, yes, and I had to tell him like stop shouting yes at me now because I can't even do it.
Up, Charlie.
And he'd be like getting like massive rep PRs, like smiling mid set, and I'm just like, fuck's sake, like.
Hey, we should have we'll have to get him on at some point. We'll have to get him on the podcast.
Yeah,
we'll get you both on at some point. That'll be good.
Yeah, it's good to talk to him about what it's like watching someone like every day training with me. Yeah. He's in the off season, and I'm just like slowly coming down on prep. Yeah.
We experienced that because 2 years ago, obviously Finn competed and I didn't, and it was like the first experience of Finn not having any emotions and not saying a single thing other than like, what weight are you doing, for about 3 months. And then last year for me it was the same, and like I remember I've said this a few times on the podcast as well, like Finn said to me when we were doing my lower session was like 1 set adductor, 1 set leg extension and ham curl, 1 set hack squat, 1 set leg press or something. And I think I took out the leg press, so it was like 5 sets. That was it. And Finn said to me, I think I'm going to add another set onto like the ham curl or hack squat or leg press. And I literally, like, my head was like, you're going to do more? What? You're doing more? Like, I was stunned that he's even thought. I was like, I physically, if you said to me, you can make unlimited money, you can win £1 million to go do another hack squat set. No chance. Fuck no. I'm not even recovering from 5 sets. I can't do 6. And Finn was like, yeah, I'm going to add another set. And I was taken back. It was almost like I was like, what the fuck is this?
It is quite difficult, I think, when, especially if you've trained, like, I know you and Charlie haven't trained together that long, have you? Like, obviously for us, we've trained together years now. So it's like, and we've both experienced that where one of us has been prepping, the other one hasn't. Like, so we're kind of used to it. But I bet for like the first time, even the first time for me and Reece, it was like a little bit weird because like, it was my first prep. It was our first time where one of us was prepping. So it was weird, wasn't it? I was like doing like so little work and just being a bit like being pissed off all the time at training, like not enjoying. Like, you don't enjoy training at the end of prep. And like, you just don't.
You're on a different wavelength because like Charlie's in the off season, he's not in a rush. Like, he'll walk off and chat to someone and then do his set like 3 minutes later or whatever. And I'm like, I want to get in and out. This is fucking boring. I want to get home and eat my cream of rice. Like, so you're just on complete different wavelengths. Yeah, it's tricky.
Will be.
To be fair, I'm going to disagree with that in the sense of like, I never had that in and out mentality. I just couldn't fucking do anything. So after 90 minutes, I was fucked. So it was like, usually, like, me and Finn have always trained for quite a long amount of time, but I never had that sort of in and out mentality of like, I actually like being in the gym because I didn't think about food. I could, in between sets, I could just walk around the gym, get my steps in. I found training days, like, if anything, almost like, we used to go to Rotherham twice, back-to-back days. And it was literally in prep, it was like a time machine for 3 days because I'd literally wake up, work, check-ins, get my cardio done, do some steps, go to the gym, and I'd leave at midday. And I get back at 9 and I'd do some more steps and go to bed. And I'd do the following. And I would literally be like a time machine where the day would just skip ahead. I wouldn't be hungry. I wouldn't really be thinking about food. And it would be like, then a few days later, and I'd be like, oh, sick, I'm closer to the show. I'm closer to getting where I am. So I never had that sort of in and out mentality. It was more so after a few sets, I was like, oh, I feel like shit. I can't actually do anything more, So
I think for me, it was more so, right, let's see if the next set's all right. And let's see if the next set's all right. You get to the end of the session and they're all shit. And it's like, oh, well, that's that session done.
Yeah. I guess, Reece, how long was your split the same from your off season into prep? Like, was all the things, the movements that you did the same?
Yeah, rough. Well, to be fair, because of obviously lockdowns and stuff, it literally was a case where I had about, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks when the gyms were open until I started prep. If anything, no, it was less. It was like 2 weeks. So I had 2 weeks, but we trained with 4 times per week. It was literally like, I did like a pull, push, upper, lower. And that was like my sessions. And I kept my exercises pretty much the exact same. Like, it was where I didn't really make massive transitions. It was more so just my volume was kind of down regulated as I got deeper into prep and as my abilities dwindled. So I eventually changed the upper session into like a push session. So it was where it wasn't as demanding. I was only doing pull work one time per week. My lower frequency was at one time per week. So it wasn't where like my exercises changed drastically, where for Finn, like his like a good chunk of your prep, mate, wasn't it? It was during lockdown doing barbell movement. So
I think I started prep and we were in the gyms, and then not long after I started, we were into a lockdown, and obviously we trained at yours. I trained at AJ's once a week in his garage. I trained. Do you remember I trained at one of my clients at the time who had a decent setup? So I had like all right kit, but not great. It was like doing a belt squat on a cable was like, oh, this is amazing. Like it wasn't great. So obviously my like movements changed quite a lot, but thing is, like, it was I kind of almost appreciate that time now. Like, we look back on it with like good memories, don't we? And then also like the amount of times that a client will say to me like, oh mate, my gym, my equipment's shit, or I'm going on holiday and there's no gym for 2 weeks or whatever. And I'm like, well, you can still make it work. Like, you know, I had clients through lockdown who had no equipment and still made it work. Like, yeah, it's not optimal. You're not going to be making the best progress that you possibly could, but you can still, you know, crack on with it. You can still train. You can still eat. You can still sleep. Like, it's not just like, oh, you can't do anything now. So, like I kind of sort of look back in on the lockdown with like fond memories and feel like it actually benefited us a lot. And also it makes us a lot more grateful now. Like, now and again, I'll moan about a piece of equipment and then I'll think, like, what am I doing? I can't moan about it. It's like, I'll moan about the prime ham curl. And I'm like, how am I moaning about the prime ham curl? Like, I had nothing for however long. Like, so, yeah. Right. So let's go into the Olympia, mate. Let's delve into that. Talk us through the day. Talk us through the day before if you want to. Give us a sort of rundown on everything there.
Yeah, so obviously I said we were reversing into that show, and I think it was pretty crazy. My metabolic rate upregulated like a lot throughout reversing, to the point where it was like I looked fuller like maybe 3-4 days into reversing initially, to then being like maybe flatter at like 6 days out, having to be on like 600 grams of carbs, and I was just burning through food like rapidly. It was really interesting. So I was on like 600 grams of carbs for like 4 days as I went to that when I was traveling, and we were just putting a lot of food in because it wasn't really holding as well as we'd expect. And it was like that, and then also on top of the fact that we wanted to just push fullness really hard as well, so we had to put a lot of food in. Whereas in the past, like the qualifier, my carbs were at like highest like 450, and I guess it's a big part of it is being leaner and you're just more insulin sensitive and you're just burning through food. It was enjoyable in the sense that I was eating a lot of food, and I'd already felt like I started like recovering, like I felt a bit better in myself. So I was a lot more laid back. Stress was low, but obviously the jet lag and stuff isn't easy. Milo was like really screwed up because obviously, So he'd sleep in our room and he'd be waking up throughout the night. But yeah, he did adjust pretty well considering. And on the show day, I got a videographer to film. I was just carbing up, and then we it was kind of like with Asia, you'll find that you probably agree, like everything's sort of pre-planned a bit. We'll regulate each day as it comes, but like we know what we need to do. And it was just a case of sort of coasting into the show, which I think is always the best way to approach a peak. You know, don't take risks, know what you need to do. So it was just a case of, the usual show day like sheet that we had, but just a bit more food than usual because I needed a bit more food. Just like low chicken, very low amounts of chicken, just like rice, and then sort of that was it really. Not the pancakes and burgers and stuff that I used to do.
Did you do anything?
Not the water manipulation and stuff like that. God, AJ's such a poor coach if he doesn't know how to like manipulate water. Fucking hell.
No, I was gonna say, did you do anything out of the ordinary from literally what you were doing in the days before, or is it just the same, or did you drink a little bit less like on the day?
Yeah. So, what we learned from the Europeans and maybe the UKDFBA as well is like, my body needs water to look full. I think on the Europeans, I got a bit too fixated on like being really shredded. I thought like I was thinking like they'll really appreciate conditioning. So I scaled back fluid. I did like at least and a half in the morning of the Europeans, and then I was just sipping, which probably it wasn't enough. I was pretty flat by then, because also the show went on for so much longer than we'd expect. I was on stage at like 6 p.m. And I was only doing like 300 milliliters with each meal, and I looked very detailed and conditioned. It did help with that, but I was up against very big guys and I needed to be full. We fought that at the Olympia, which was correct. You know, you look at previous winners like Paul Kruger, I think his name is, pro winner last year, massive. He wasn't like crazy conditioned. He had good conditioning, but like if you looked at his glutes, they weren't like that in at all, but just huge, like crazy size. And it's like, well, they clearly like the size and the shape. And so, yeah, we just kept on the show day in the Natural Olympia. I had 3 liters in the morning, and then I just backed off. And then if I felt like I needed a bit of water, I just put a bit more water in than usual, maybe like 600 milliliters with a meal. And I remember like pumping up, thinking like, do I look as lean? But it works. Like I stepped on stage and looked the best that I had, definitely.
I think if anything, you're better off. I always say to people, you're better off drinking more than drinking less. Like all that's really going to do is you're just going to go to the toilet more. Like, you're not going to, even if you do hold a little bit more water, like when you're that lean, realistically, it's going to be intramuscular anyway. Like it's not going to be like, oh my God, you've spilled from water. Like you're not going to spill water. You'll spill if you overeat.
You get a lot better when it comes to pumping up, and you got more fluid in you. 100%.
Yeah. I think also this is the thing. It's like when you're actually stage lean and you spill, then you're still peeled. Whereas if you're not stage lean and you spill, then you know you look pretty awful.
Telling yourself that when you're in that position is so hard. I remember I had Finn between the finals. Like it was like 3 days out, and he was like, "Just add more food. Just add more food." And I was like, "But mate, what if I?" And he was like, "It's impossible. You cannot." He was like, "You will not be out of shape on Saturday or Sunday when you beat this." He goes, I think he said something like, "You could eat anything in sight for the next 3 days." He was like, "No, but you could, and you'll still be fucking like peeled."
I think like it's so hard when you go through prep and you just permanently looking at yourself and all you can think about is conditioning. Like that's all you think about for yourself. That's why I always say, like, I will always work with someone when I prep. I think just because it saves the mind games. Whilst I know how to prep and what to do, it's just the prep brain, especially with this time around. Like I remember saying to AJ, like, I feel flat, I feel full, or like all these different things, and it's like,
I think as well, like even obviously, like we kind of run everything by each other, like to an extent. So like having someone there. I think sometimes like you can overanalyze it when you really don't need to be. So like if you're obviously giving your coach feedback, which you should be doing, and you're thinking about how do I feel today, you could almost be overthinking it and thinking like, well, do I feel full? Do I feel flat? Do I feel I'm feeling? Do I look better than yesterday? Like whereas you're better off just going, right, here's my photos. Let me know what you think. Like because that can obviously skew your judgment. It can skew their judgment. But yeah, like you definitely need someone, another pair of eyes or multiple that you respect and that you 100% sort of take their advice on board. Because like you say, there's no chance that you can do it. You're just not sane by that point. Like you just, your decision making.
I think a massive thing to talk about here is as well is what I've realized is the temperature where you are massively skews your idea if you're full or not. Like, so when I was at the Europeans, it was in this arena and it was really like well heated and everywhere was really warm. Like I remember pumping up and Max was joking like, it's a bit hot in here, isn't it? Like everywhere was so warm. And as a result of that, I felt full, but I wasn't that full at all. And then if you pose outside and you're freezing cold, you think you're flat, but maybe you're not actually that flat. It's just something to consider. It's like, and that's all based off just your own experience. So that's why you need someone to look at you and be like, you're flat, you're full. Yeah.
Definitely.
It's also the reason why, as Finn said, you don't really need to think too much of it. Like, I don't feel like again, it's important to relate to your coach, this is how I'm feeling or whatever. But again, I never mentioned anything like after any session, I wasn't like, I'm feeling really full or I'm feeling really flat. It's like, I'm peeled. I've been peeled for a long time and I feel like shit. There's nothing like, I don't care if I'm full. I don't care if I'm not eating enough food to be full. I'm not eating, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's one of them where I think it's very much like, as Finn said, you can definitely overanalyze. And if you're always seeking like fullness, I'm flat, I need more food, I need that, it's just going to be a case of, do you have body fat to come off? If so, diet. If not, cool, that's when you can start to play around with stuff. But I think a lot of people unfortunately don't even get to that point. Like they usually get to that point and then it's like, right, peak week someone is, and it's like, well, you've got a week now just to kind of drop off fatigue. So I think it's part of it, but I think like it's a good thing because you're coming in from a different side. So we're seeing what you're saying, and it's like it's quite interesting because we almost meet in the middle in a lot of situations. You know, like bodybuilding, but there's always going to be different opinions.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing I did notice though is my physique drastically changes with fullness. Like I could be flat and look so much worse. I think Asia did a post about it. It's like how adaptive my physique is. It's like that. If you compared me at the Europeans to Natural Olympia, I literally look maybe twice the size, and it's just fullness and water. Yeah.
So, talk us through when you were obviously on stage. You did classic as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So, hands down, that experience on stage was the best experience I've ever had competing. Not the fact that it was Olympia, it was just like how it went on stage, how the judging was done. It was so much fun. Batting it out with Christoph was so fun. We were obviously good friends beforehand. We went on stage and like we were watching the judges, and like he was in the center at the start. I remember he hit the side chest, like his side leg's crazy. I remember looking at the judges and they were like, what the fuck? Like looking at his side leg like that. And then I hit my most muscular and they were like, what the fuck? Put me in the middle. We were posing lows. They were looking at us like they were really invested.
That's good. That's how it should be. Like
that's how it was.
Show the athletes that you actually give a shit and that you're enjoying it and that you're actually judging them.
They were so attentive to like even the fifth and fourth, and it took a while. People like we were really worked hard. And I remember I was posing, and Mark, the head judge of UKDFBA, winked at me, and I thought, shit, maybe this means something or not. But I just felt like I had it because of just how I ended in the middle, and they were actually, you know how if a show's judged right, the person who ends in the middle is usually who they have in first, you know, and that was how it was, but it was definitely very close. Like, yeah.
No, he is good. He is very good.
Yeah, his side leg is just. Yeah. I genuinely think
he's probably got side leg. I think you must have mentioned it, Adam, about 3 or 4 times.
Loves his side leg.
Side leg.
It's right, crazy.
Get up Adam's Instagram. We'll have a look.
Okay. Well, we're not gonna look, we will look at Adam's side leg, but we'll probably look at Adam's most muscular. We can maybe go and have a look at Christoph. Okay.
Oh, you mean Christoph's side leg?
Like, Christoph's side leg. I'm expecting something immaculate.
Have you not seen it?
Right. I don't think so, no. So we do apologise to the people listening on Spotify. And again, thanks to everybody who has been listening on Spotify. We're coming for the 2023 Wrapped.
Taking over.
Yeah, we're taking over the game. So we have Adam's Instagram up. Finn, walk us through. Adam, if you want us to click on any photo, mate, like if there's anything that you feel like, oh yeah, I could talk about that, just intersect and let us know.
Yeah.
So when was this, mate?
So this is the morning of UKDFBA. This was like I felt so dry then. I woke up and we cut water off at like 8 p.m. Well, I kind of just did it just to see what it would do. I had about 7 liters the day before and just cut it off a bit earlier. And I looked super, super dry. But, you know, whilst we just discussed, like, you don't want to cut water out if you want to look full. And I actually, in the caption on this, I'm talking about how, like, this was my favorite look across prep, but it wouldn't have won me any shows because if I stood next to people, well, arguably it wouldn't have won me shows because if I stood next to Peter, for example, like this, I would have just got out-muscled, I think, especially with how much fluid I need to look, like, big, which is what we did. And my look on stage wouldn't have been as dry as this, but definitely a better bodybuilding physique. It's all down to how you look next to someone, you know.
I think this is now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's my update now, which took a lot of balls to post, to be honest.
No, mate, I can guarantee you'll look back at like photos like this and you'll go, oh shit.
Really?
It's still really, really
mate,
good.
Look at your quads, like
you're just in that
look
position.
A bit watery, but
you've put on body weight, you've put on well-needed body fat, but comparatively, mate, you're not in a bad spot at all.
So this is prep start to end, yeah.
Yeah.
And what was it? Have you got the weight on here? 18 kilos.
Yeah.
Here's your side leg. This is
Oh,
Adam's
yeah.
side leg.
We'll
Yeah,
put...
look at that side leg.
It's not quite Christoph's though.
Let me have a quick look. Sorry, guys, I'm just typing in Christoph. Has he got a photo of his side leg? I bet all his
He
photos
doesn't
are his
post.
side
He
leg.
told me he hasn't bought a single stage photo, which I respect a bit. He hasn't bought a single stage photo.
Why not? Just didn't want to.
I just don't think he looks at. If you go down, like one of his updates, his recent
Oh,
ones.
there you go. Side leg.
Oh, it's a video.
No.
Yeah, wait, go down to when he's in prep. Maybe not that. Keep going. Yeah, like you can see his side leg there.
Yeah, it is good.
Hamstring.
It looks better. It looks better than that in certain shots. Maybe that one.
Good, yeah. He's tanned here as well. A little bit further away, but yeah, it is very good. It's the detail.
The enemy.
It's just the detail, yeah.
All the best, mate. Yeah, sorry, Adam. I was rooting for Christoph.
DM'd him as well, saying, "I hope you fucking smash Adam." So much better than Adam.
I hope you beat that Adam Powe.
Oh, there you go. Go on that one, yeah.
Yeah, this one's good.
Yeah, that's really nice. Crazy.
I thought he was older than he is. He's only like 24, isn't he?
Yeah, he's my age. Yeah.
Mental. Very, very good standard, like both of you for your age as well. Very good.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, he pushed me very hard, to be fair. It was, yeah.
So anybody who's not following Adam.Powe_. Right, we've got a little bit more time, not a lot. Should we just rattle through some questions?
Yeah, sure.
I got a few ones that are not actually directly towards. To be fair, the ones that it's always interesting. The ones that get directly asked usually get answered. So like one of them was like, "What changes have you made training?" And it's like we've already spoke about that.
Yeah.
So pod question. This is actually, Adam, feel free. This actually kind of applies to us all. From a coaching perspective, it's obviously important how coaches relay constructive criticism back to clients, i.e., not just calling them cunts or telling them to get their shit together. How would you guys approach these situations, and what advice would you give to the coaches that may need to reevaluate how they communicate with clients?
Can I ask who's asked that?
Musa. How come?
Because Tom Hames put a post about it today, so something must have happened. Because why would you something must have happened that someone's called someone a cunt in their coaching. Imagine that. Imagine saying that to one of your clients, like seriously telling them that. Okay, so basically, don't call your clients cunts. I mean, even if you have a really close relationship, maybe you could in like a jokey sense, but I still would say, borderline. Yeah, basically, like, again, it depends on how close you are with that individual. Like, for example, some of my clients, I can jokingly be like, right, come on, like, get your head out your ass, fucking get your shit together because you're pissing about now. Like, if you want to get these results, you need to sort yourself out. If it was a new client or somebody who I didn't have that relationship with, I'd be sort of explaining it to them. Look, this is what you're struggling with. This is what we need to work on to get you out of that position. This is the importance of getting you out of doing what you're doing and getting you towards what we're looking at to get better results. You wouldn't just be like, fucking get your shit together.
Yeah. I think
go on.
I like to be very honest with my clients, but avoid judgment. Just like, I feel like I would want from a coach to be honest with me, right? And tell me how it is, but just don't give any judgment on it. Because that's not going to get you anywhere. And you want to be showing that you're supporting them. And everyone's at a different stage in their like processes with training and whatnot, like whether they go to failure, whether they train hard enough, like everyone's at a different stage. And I think it's just about just telling them like exactly how it is and then telling them why that matters and educate them. I think as well,
it's about education. Yeah. Like you say, it's not about making them feel like they're doing something wrong. It's about trying to explain to them how they can be better.
Yeah,
I think also, there's an importance for them to actually understand the reason why you would give them that feedback.
Yeah.
Because, for example, with like training feedback, me and Finn, like we'll have clients who joke about it all the time, but we will be so critical regarding everything execution wise. And I'll remind clients when they sign up, like, look, I'm not going to tell you how good a set is if there's even one slight thing that's potentially, let's say, not 100%. So I might tell you one week, right, this could be better. They then send a video across and they've made that change, but something else has suffered, or there's something else that pops up. And I'm not going to be the kind of coach to say, well done, mate, you've done exactly what I've said, because I almost think, well, of course, you should be like, it should be a case where you want to focus on making everything better. And I think at times, especially when someone signs up, like we've had it before where clients will be like, oh, you're just telling me this needs to be better, that needs to be better. But it's almost that understanding and explaining to somebody that the reason why you would want to tell them is you want them to get it better. You know, I would never want to hire a coach for them to say, Reece, mate, you're just fucking amazing. Like, this is really, really good.
Yeah, we always say, don't we? Like, a coach isn't a cheerleader. Like, if you want a cheerleader, go to your mates, go to your family.
Absolutely.
That's not what your coach is there for.
Yeah.
I
guess your mum, your heavy hinge set, and she'll go, oh, wow, you're so strong.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be literally how it goes.
Show her your buddy row, and she'll tell you that it's amazing form. Oh, yeah, thanks, Mum.
To be fair, Adam's set from a few years back. I don't think someone would say that. No chance. She'd be like, you're not my fucking son.
That's horrendous. To be fair, this isn't even a question that came in. I'm just going to ask Adam, because I don't know. I feel like you've mentioned it before, but are you planning on staying natural, mate, or what are you thinking for the future?
Yeah, I think I'm planning on staying natural, but like it's nothing set in stone. Obviously, I'm going to have... I'm going to spend 2 years now getting as big as I can naturally and then competing in 2025. And then what happens after that, we'll see. But I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just a lot of things I need to consider. And also, obviously, I've got Milo and stuff like that. It changes things a little bit. Yeah, I think like if I stayed natural, I'd be very satisfied with that. Like, I don't feel like I need to jump on and take stuff, but I'm always thinking, what if, like all the time. Yeah. So
the life of a natural bodybuilder.
Yeah,
always the temptation. Right. So, thoughts on utilizing pauses in the shortened when kit like prime is not available, or continued. The reps or load will be diminished, but the internal stimulus be increased. Adam, what's your opinion on tempo manipulation, pauses in the shortened, things like that? Come on, give us a insight.
Yeah, I think it depends on the movement. Like, I feel like movements that are hard to get short, once you're there, make the most of it. Like, that's where tension is going to be at the highest point. Like on a leg extension, I think pausing can be really useful just to maximize tension. And it's something that I've done a lot in all my leg sessions. It depends also on the machine, because some resistance profiles are easier to get short and then some are really hard. I don't know if you've ever watched like the typical, you have a client training in Pure Gym and they're doing leg extensions on like the matrix leg extension, and you see like the first 5 reps they get short and then it's like, oh, it drops off, oh, it's dropping off more, and it's dropping off more. And it's like, if you're in that position, like make the most of being in the shortened range and take time there. I think is very, very important. Yeah, I love it on bicep curls as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer, to be fair. I feel like me and Finn were probably...
Yeah, we said like the exercise sequencing as well. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The session, but generally you'd place those movements earlier on, usually.
Early on, yeah. I think it just depends as well about what you're doing. Like, obviously, if you're doing a dumbbell curl, then don't pause in the short because there's no tension there. Because whereas if you're doing like a cable, then make the most of it. Like on cable curls, I love to pause there because just there's so much tension. Yeah.
DP Fit asked, how did Adam feel knowing he was going up against the guy who beat him at the UKDFBA finals? So we kind of answered it, like obviously we spoke about it, but how did you feel? Did you think, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to win because he beat me? Or
I think I felt confident because we gave a different approach into that show, which made something different. I think if we carried on digging, which we clearly saw wasn't doing me any favors at the Europeans, I probably would have been a lot less confident. It's like, well, I'm just going to, like, you've got to place your strengths in bodybuilding. Chris' strength was conditioning. That's why he pushed for more conditioning. My strength, I think, is my shape and size. So that's why we pushed to that. And it made me a lot more confident. I felt a lot bigger going, you know, you want to feel big when you step on stage, right? Or you're going to step on stage. I think it's bodybuilding. And feeling like full and stuff just helped a lot. Thinking that, you know, I could get a bit of redemption. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I think a lot of people would have been like, oh, I'm not going to win because he's already beat me.
Yeah.
But like you say, on the day, it's like,
yeah,
bodybuilding
exactly.
is
Yeah.
it completely depends on how you are on that given day. I got a stupid one, mate. You know, Reece, you know Gio Ashley?
Yeah, he's put a profile picture.
Yeah, he's got a profile picture now. So it's not Adam who we thought it was. He asked, and it's not really a question, mate. You might have heard this one before. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I did actually laugh when I read it out. Why did Adam's parents not name him Ka? Because it'd be Kapow. And I did laugh at it, and I was like, "It's not a bad one." I don't know. Have you heard that one before, mate?
Yeah, I actually haven't, but maybe I should have called Milo Car.
Yeah, that'd have been good. Next one, the next one.
Next one, yeah. Or like at least a middle name. Yeah.
Yeah, that is actually, and middle name is all right. That Milo Kapow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right. To be fair, a couple of the other questions, like I think me and Reece can answer on other ones. I don't want to keep you too long, mate, because I know you got to get going soon. So, have you got any last ones, Reece, that came through just for Adam?
To be fair, there's only a few, but one was saying, "How does Finn? Can you ask how Finn grows and maintains such great facial hair?" I think he's joking. I don't think that's a serious question. Finn,
there's a bit of a gap here, but I mean it's actually quite good. And I'll tell you guys what
it's
I do
actually
is
quite good.
What I do is I shave here, shave here. I trim the my tash. I do that all on just a normal razor, and then I put it on number 3, I think it is, and I just do everywhere else. I need to start doing here less because it doesn't grow as much.
Yeah, I have the same issue as you. I can grow it quite well, like here, but there's just like this is one spot here, and it's just slightly not perfect. And my missus says she loves stubble and always wants me to keep it, but I'm like I can't. So I grow it out, and then it gets to a point where, and I'm like, okay, it's gone again.
It does. I have a gap here as well, so like I have to shave it further up because like if it grows down my neck, there's just like a random semicircle there. Reece, what about you?
No, not a lot. Not a lot. Clearly, I'm just not using enough tests. I just need to.
I think I've said this. I say this to people. It's like, oh, you're on test. I'm like, mate, once I grow like a full beard, that's when I'm on test.
That's when you'll know.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me. So clearly, am I natural?
You must be natty, mate.
Maybe you're not.
Right, we'll wrap it up there. We'll wrap it up there.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It was a pleasure. Have you got anything you want to plug? I know you said at the start. People go and watch his YouTube as well. Adam's YouTube is very good. Instagram Adam.Powe _. YouTube, is it just Adam Powe?
Yeah, just Adam Powe.
Obviously, like coaching and stuff, inquiries, I'm sure just message Adam. So yeah, appreciate having you on, mate. Reece, do you want to do the outro?
Well, no, we actually want to ask Adam, is there anything you want to leave us upon, or are you all good? Everything's spot on.
Yeah, give us a life lesson or something like that.
Yeah, like what's the meaning of life to Adam Powe? Come on, give us something that we can end the podcast with.
Not too long though, because you've got to go.
I guess just keep doing. If you love something and it doesn't go your way, just keep doing it and keep turning up. Because I think last year, I nearly questioned bodybuilding, and then I kept going, and yeah, look what's happened this year. So just keep at it and just keep doing what you love, pretty much.
Natural Olympia winner. Resilience. That's what Adam's here for, resilience. Right. Thanks as always, mate. Pleasure. Cool. Thanks for everybody.
Having me.
Thanks for all the story tags. Make sure to tag Adam as well in the story tags. And yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll catch you guys next week. See you later.